You join me this morning at the Boathouse Fisheries up in Shropshire. This is the lake that I have spent my winter fishing. Now, I joined this lake for a couple of reasons. Firstly, a few years ago now, I saw photos of this incredible black linear floating around on social media. And last year, I learnt that it lived in this lake. Not only that, I found out I could get myself a winter ticket. Usually in the summer it's a group booking venue, but in the winter he has a winter syndicate on here. Add to that, I heard it had great winter form and it is only 35 minutes from home, which for me is relatively local. So the fact that it was close to home, did bites in the winter and held some lovely carp made it the ideal prospect for the winter. The last few weeks have been nothing short of prolific. I did manage to catch a few just before Christmas, but since the second week of January, in total now, I have caught 35 carp from this lake. Most trips I've had 6, 7. Last week I caught 10. It has been by far the best winter's fishing I have ever had. Stock-wise, there's somewhere around 120 to 140 carp in this lake. Some lovely old originals that probably make up almost 50% of the stock. And the rest of the stock is made up of lovely stockies, VS, Dinton, some Fisher Pond that John, or Scotty as I know him, has stocked in here over the last 5 years since he took the lake on. There are plenty of 30 pounders and the big one actually did 41.5 a couple of years ago and it actually hasn't been caught since. There is 1 or 2 others that could be over 40 pound, excuse the geese, they're being very noisy, it is that time of the year. So yeah, some lovely carp to go at. And as I say, the fishing has been prolific. I've caught 35 fish this winter with a handful of lovely 30 pounders. And that black linear that I was talking about, I was actually fortunate enough to catch that carp from this very swim a couple of weeks back now. It weighed 34 pounds and 10 ounces, but it was such an incredible looking fish that the weight really is irrelevant. But as I say, as I've been fishing up here, I have learned that there are loads of other lovely carp in this lake. So I am staying on here probably, well, for at least the next couple of weeks. We are now into March, as I mentioned. Now, I actually got here yesterday and this swim was taken and I actually fished up the other end in a swim known as Coots. I just put one rod out for the day waiting for this swim to come through. And I did manage to catch a lovely 28 pound linear. Really nice carp. It's a swim that I've done very well from, that swim is, but I'd actually been waiting for this swim, which is not something I'd usually do. But this swim over the last couple of weeks has done a lot of the lake's bigger fish. In fact, over the weekend, I mean it's Tuesday morning now, but over the weekend a guy had a 35 mirror out of here. He had the lake's biggest common at just over 38. He had another common at 31, amongst a few others. So like I say, going into a swim based on the fact that it's been doing fish is not something I'd usually do, but the fact that it's been doing the better stamp of fish has sort of got my attention. As I say, I caught that lovely linear out of here a couple of weeks ago. And last week, I did catch 10 fish fishing over the other side, but a lot of them were 20 pounders. It seemed like the bigger fish in the lake have been like this corner out to my left here, whatever it is about this corner, you know, maybe it's the weed, it's quite a shallow corner. The lake in general is quite shallow. I think that's why it fishes so well in the winter. But this corner in particular, it's very weedy, very shallow, and for whatever reason, they have been loving this corner for the last couple of weeks. So I jumped in here. Whether I've made the right decision or not, it remains to be seen, because as it stands at the minute, it is now about 9:30 in the morning, and last night and this morning, I haven't caught anything. In fact, everything that I have seen has been up the other end of the lake where I actually moved from yesterday. One thing I've found on this lake is they don't like pressure, and they have seen a lot of pressure in this swim the last couple of weeks. But we've got a few nights ahead of us. Whether I stay in this swim or not remains to be seen. I know there are a couple more guys turning up today. We've got a WhatsApp group for the syndicate, and they've put on the syndicate WhatsApp that they are going to turn up this afternoon for a 48-hour session. With a few more anglers on this lake, there is every chance that fish are going to push back into this middle section. This swim, not only does it command the middle of the pond, it also commands this corner to my left that the fish have been loving, like I say, for the last couple of weeks. Doesn't feel like they're here at the minute, but it won't take them long to come back. On the other hand, the guy who's just setting up the other end, there's somebody it's actually my cousin, has turned up this morning for a day session, and he's setting up the other end where I caught that fish from yesterday and where I have seen a couple of carp this morning. He is only doing a day session. This lake has done a lot of day bites in recent weeks, so there is definitely still a chance of catching one today. If nothing happens, then a move may well be on the cards, but we're just going to play it by ear. But at some point, either today, well, probably today, I will go into a little bit more detail, explaining exactly what I've been doing this winter and what I am doing today in this particular swim. Right, a movie's on the cards. It's getting towards late morning now, nothing has happened. I've just seen one show over between the swim opposite and the boathouse. Anyway, Ash has put the drone up to have a look. He wanted to have a look at the lake anyway, get some shots, but he's put the drone up, flown over there, and there is a big group of carp close in between that swim opposite and the boathouse, very close to the bank. Weirdly, it doesn't look like they're doing a lot, they're just sort of mingling around. I wouldn't say they're feeding particularly hard, but there are carp over there, which is interesting. There are also carp using this open water in front of me. None of them seem to be feeding, weirdly. They're just swimming around mid-water, as fish often do in the spring. But basically, there is two guys turning up in a little bit, and the more the day passes by, the more I feel like I need to be in that swim up the end where I moved from yesterday and caught after catching that 28 pounder, which obviously I can't move into now because my cousin is in there doing a day. But these two guys turning up could easily take, I'm guessing they want a social. They're two mates. They could easily take those two swims opposite. I could lose out on it. If I move now, even though I'm giving up on this swim, which is a good swim, they're going to go in these two swims, which will at least keep the pressure on this side. I can fish for the day in that swim opposite where we've seen the fish close in. And then this afternoon, when my cousin goes home, we're in a relatively close position to just move down the bank and get the rods out in there. So that's what I'm thinking. Move around there now, couple of rigs in close on where I've seen those fish, and then give it the day there, and then I can move into that swim where I probably should have done last night for the remainder of the session. That's what the plan is, I think. Finish this coffee, get packed away, that's what I'm doing, I've decided. So we are now in the swim where we saw the fish show close in. The plan is to literally just flip fish, a couple of pop-ups close in for drops. Presentation is an issue on a lot of this lake because of the amount of blanket weed, but as long as I get semi-decent drops, I've got little pop-ups on helis. I'm going to push the beads up a bit, so as long as I get sort of semi-decent drops, I'm pretty confident that they're presented. I'm going to try and do the two rods in two casts. I might just, it's only short range, so I'm thinking I might just pouch a little bit of sweet corn, a few pouchfuls of sweet corn with a catapult over the top of each rig. Might work, it might not, but it definitely feels like it gives us a shout for the next few hours. And then the swim that I want to get into for tonight is only 60 yards up the bank, so at least it's going to be a nice easy move later. I'll leave most of the kit on the barra, just flick these rods out, see what happens here, and then we've always got that swim to fall back on tonight. So that's the plan. Well, they were far from great drops. I feel like the left-hand rod went down slightly better than the right. But they're out there. They're in the zone where we saw fish. I'm hoping, like I say, that those little pop-ups on the helis should be presented. I've put 4 pouchfuls of sweet corn over the top of each one. Obviously the sweet corn, it's very visual and very lightweight, so that should just sort of flutter down and sit over the top of that blanket weed, and hopefully, if there are still carp about, it should encourage them to drop down and hopefully hang themselves on those little yellow pop-ups. Can't say I feel massively confident. Obviously I did see one jump over here. We did see a few over here with it. I say a few, we see quite a lot over here with the drone. But I know what these carp are like in this lake. Chances are, now those rigs are out, it's devoid of fish. But it's a chance for a few hours anyway, while we wait for that swim to come free. You never know, do you? You never know. So the Boathouse is a 4.5 acre lake set in beautiful Shropshire countryside. It's a triangular shape, very shallow on the whole. It's probably averages 3 to 4 foot down the wider end of the lake, and as the lake narrows up sort of towards the top of the triangle, there are depths of up to 8 feet over towards the dam wall, but that sort of 8 foot, 8, 9 foot maybe in places, that area of the lake is actually very small. On the whole, most of the lake is 6 foot or less. It's got a great stock of carp. I think there's about 140 fish in here. So it's quite relatively, shall I say, relatively high stocked. It fishes incredibly well in the winter, probably due to the fact that it's quite shallow. It's stream fed at one end, and obviously the water comes out at the other end. And I think that constant changeover of water, added to the fact that it's very shallow, just makes it a great winter venue. For me, it's not too far from home, so it seemed like the ideal prospect in the winter. And I have had a great winter's fishing on here. The lake is very weedy. In the summer, it is absolutely choked up to the surface over most of the lake. Obviously, all the swims have sort of got known spots that, you know, people bait, and because they're constantly seeing bait, they stay clear. But on the whole, the lake is very weedy. Even now, like a lot of the weed has died back, but there are still beds of Canadian out there which are surprisingly green to say we're at the back end of the winter, and probably 95% of the lake bed, 90% at least, is covered in thick blanket weed. That blanket weed is absolutely alive with natural food. Some of the bigger fish in this lake go years uncaught, and I think there's 2 main reasons for that. Firstly, presentation can be an issue because of the blanket weed, and secondly, there's so much natural food for them, they can literally pick and choose as and when they want to eat bait. I'm having a slight change of tactics. I've just seen a load of carp underneath the boathouse. There's loads of fish getting in and out of there, but I've come back round to the swim. I think maybe because the light's changed a little bit now, we're later in the day, I can see a lot of carp cruising in and out towards the boathouse. A little bit further out than what I'm fishing. So, I mean, I was a bit unsure about presentation anyway. I wasn't overly happy with where the rods were sat. So what I'm going to do is just put some slightly larger yellow pop-ups on. These are 12 mils, I'm going to put 14 mils on, and just chuck a couple of singles out on the line that I can see the fish taking. I'm going to push the bead right up so they fish almost like choddies. Probably should put choddies on, but as I'm probably going to move up the bank later, I don't want to be changing rigs and everything. A little bit lazy, I know, but I'm sure these spinners will present. So yeah, that's the plan. Bigger pop-ups, fishing with singles right in their path. about that? How about that? Well, that did not take long. The rig that I cast in the path of where I'd seen the fish, cruising through, obviously I had the Polaroids on, I could just see the shadows coming in towards the boathouse, has gone already. It's probably been out there 15 minutes maximum. So yeah, it's a great sign. I had a feeling as soon as the rig went in, it felt like it went down well, exactly where I'd been seeing them. And obviously this time of year, obviously as we've seen here, the carp, they're up and they're active, there's loads of them here, they're swimming around, but there's not much signs of feeding. Obviously I had them out short before, over a few patchfuls of corn, and there just didn't seem to be a lot going on. You know, they obviously weren't feeding on the corn basically. But I've put a bigger, brighter pop-up on right in their face, and it's gone almost instantly. Got it. We're off the rock. We got one. There we go. Oh. And there he is. Not a monster, low 20, but a lovely dark one, typical of the originals in this lake. I'm not sure what strain they are, but they're all a bit like this, you know, very dark, relatively leathery flanked, big scales down the dorsal, and of course they go a lot bigger than this one. But yeah, super pleased to have got one. The change of tactic was obviously a good decision. As I mentioned during the fight, this rod had only been out there for 10-15 minutes maximum, just on a single pop-up, exactly where I'd seen the fish sort of cruising. I say cruising, it's very shallow out there, very shallow, and with the Polaroids on, I could just see these dark shadows moving through a bit further out than what I was actually fishing. I have now recast both the rods on that same line. The fish have probably pushed off a bit because it is very shallow out there, and obviously fish don't like pressure. They've just seen one of their mates get caught, but there's still a chance, and if we don't catch anything else from here, we've always got the swim further up the bank to fall back on this evening, and I'm pretty confident we'll get a few out of there. But yeah, something else about this capture, just quickly before I put him back, that actually means that bite is the first bite I've ever had out this swim. In fact, it's the first time I've ever fished this swim, and that now means I have caught carp from every single swim on this lake this winter. So yeah, happy days. Cheers, mate. First of many, we hope. Straight over the toes. Oh, look at them all attacking him.